January 6, 1923, London. 5 adventurers gather, drawn together by an insidious plot designed by a dread hand. Drawn together to embark on a journey from the River Thames to the shores of the Bosphorus. Traveling through Europe on a coal-powered palace, they'll combat terrors ancient and new. They'll see the wounds of the World War just recently ended, and the rumblings of another yet to come. They'll experience opulence rarely seen, and terrors unimaginable. Join us now for the horror on the Orient Express.
Heinrich Von Mueller reporting to the front, sir. Our convoy got caught in the mud,
shouted the clean-looking soldier, with a dozen men standing behind him. The cascade of dirt and debris coming down from the top of the trench forces him to hold his salute longer than is proper. It didn't bother Heinrich. He's no coward. The grizzled captain doesn't take his eyes off the ridge ahead of him. Maybe he didn't hear over the constant screaming guns, or the booming of artillery. An active war zone isn't a place for casual conversation.
Reporting?
The flustered soldier stuttered.
I heard you, Lieutenant.
The captain barked.
I was waiting for a lull to speak.
His last words boomed as the gunfire around him quieted.
Last thing I need is a hoarse voice on top of trench foot and a half-dozen bullet holes. So you're the new meat from Berlin, right? I need you to follow this trench all the way to the ends in the north, then trek through the woods about 10 kilometers and link up with another trench. They're protecting the passage between us and the lake, but they've gone silent. Your captain and the other half of your unit should be waiting for you. Send a runner back with information. If they're fine, stay and reinforce. If they have been overrun, you need to take back the trench at all costs. Last thing we need is to get flanked. Go.
Heinrich nodded and immediately turned to lead his men down the trench and towards the next objective. The army needed Heinrich, and he was no coward. The lull in the fighting lasted well beyond dusk, allowing them access to the woods. The eerie silence hung like a shroud over the battlefield. Only the sound of boots, crunching dead leaves, and the occasional squelch of feet being pulled from mud disturbing the night. As the trench slowly ended and became more of a deer trail, the surrounding foliage became thicker and more imposing. The black wall of trees and cover made it all the more surprising. When the trail spit Heinrich and his men into the opening, what little moonlight there was danced off the lake in front of them. However, the most surprising thing was what wasn't in front of them. There was barely a hint of men sent before Heinrich. A couple tents and some unused trenching gear were silhouetted in the moonlight.
Hans, Dieter, go check the tents. Adolf, report the situation back to the captain. Everyone else, form a perimeter.
Heinrich quietly ordered. His men quickly dispersed around him. He grit his teeth, drawing his gun tightly against himself, and began walking towards the campsite. The situation was all very suspicious, but Heinrich was no coward. Hans took the first tent, while Dieter took the second, leaving Heinrich with the third and final. Inside, a few bedrolls stretched across the floor, a couple pieces of paper with something etched on them, and a few bags, their contents half emptied onto the floor. He had barely knelt to read the papers when the first scream rang into the night. Heinrich shot out of his tent, aiming his gun at the lake where the sound had originated. There he saw a horrible sight. Forms coming from the water, grabbing his men and mounting them on pikes. Gunshots came from every corner of the clearing. In the tents behind him, the sounds of struggles and yelling as his men came tumbling out. The forms of men wrestling them, drenched men wearing German uniforms. Heinrich barely managed to get a shot off as one of those drowned Germans came running at him. The bullet lodged itself in the head of the corpse, who collapsed to the ground, save for the spike that was stuck into his chest. Chaos surrounded him. Men were wrestling with the undead. the previously drowned dragging the newly killed to the lake. Gunshots and screams filled the air. 2 more corpses began chasing Heinrich down. He was no coward, but he had to live.
That was Heinrich von Mueller's vignette. And Heinrich is being played by our good friend Jake. Jake, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Heinrich?
Hi, I'm Jake. I'm going to be playing Heinrich von Mueller. He's 28 years of age when we meet him in London. He is from a very aristocratic family, German family. Had all the privileges given to him, anything he wanted, very prestigious schooling. Then the war broke out in 1914, and he was just finishing up school, and he felt that that's something that he needed to do, and went into the military, which is where we find him at the beginning of this vignette.
If you had to summarize Heinrich in a single sentence, how do you think you would?
Heinrich's very intelligent, got a degree in psychology. He's not someone to recklessly put himself on the line. He will weigh his options, and
He's cautious.
yes.
It's the last days of December 1922. We find Heinrich sitting in the at the bar of the Oriental Club. What's Heinrich's drink of choice at the moment?
Heinrich is just drinking brandy neat.
Brandy neat. I'll keep you warm. As Heinrich's sitting there, a man sidles up next to him, and I'll have whatever he's having, and he'll have another.
Thank you.
No problem. It's good to see you this side of the channel, Heinrich.
I'm sorry, do we know each other?
I know you well enough. I know you're currently on a quest of some sort for yourself, but you'll get a request in the next few days, and I feel like you should really follow up. I think the ability to learn some more things will really pay off in the long run for you, Heinrich. I see great things for you up until about 45. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a gift, and you should take it. Use it sparingly, but use it. And he slides you a flask, and he's like, it's empty right now, but you just add some liquid to it. It'll make you right as rain. He takes the brandy and just shoots it back, and you see as he opens his mouth, you see kind of like just these noxious, awful teeth. He's a well-dressed man otherwise, but these teeth are just yellow and decayed, and you swear you see a couple holes. And he knocks us back, and he stands up, and he pats you on the back, says, I'll see you around, Heinrich. We're going to have some good times, buddy. Happy New Year. And he turns and leaves.